All right, Team Physics, here we are again. So I found some pictures online of some catapults, and I'm gonna use these as general ideas for how my catapult's gonna be. Now, I feel like that's a little weird. I'm not sure I'm gonna do that with my throwing arm attached to elastic bands, but I might. I think for sure, if you look at this one, I'm definitely going to have some kind of a rectangular base. I'm going to build a thing on here that I can then attach the elastic to my throwing arm with. So let's get started. Alright, so next thing I want to show you is I've gotten a few tools here that aren't really traditionally used to do what I'm doing here. So these are pliers, and they've got a cutting tool right here for wire. And I'm going to see if that works good for cutting popsicle sticks. I also have some pretty heavy-duty scissors. Now these probably aren't going to be good enough, and I'm probably going to ruin them if I cut sticks with them, but we'll give that a try too. I've got my Swiss Army knife, which I know is really, really good at cutting popsicle sticks or even trees. If I use the saw blade on the Swiss Army knife, that's going to work great. I also have binder clips, which I'm going to use as clamps for Elmer gluing parts of my device. And finally, if all else fails, I've got a steak knife, which I believe will be good at cutting sticks. I also have a utility knife. Now, we don't know what kinds of materials that you have to cut or measure with at home. But, you know, I've got a regular old school ruler. It's got a metric measurement on one side. It's got inches on the other. I can use that to measure. I can even use this, which is measuring tape for clothes, which has metric on one side and inches on the other. Even if it just has inches, I can always write down measurements in inches and convert to metric immediately afterwards. Okie dokie. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my bundle of 50 craft sticks here. And each of you got 80 craft sticks in the mail. Now, I want my base, I think, to be basically a rectangle. And I'm going to go ahead and say that this thing is going to be 2 popsicle sticks long, right? And maybe 1 popsicle stick wide. Okay. So one of the things that I'm going to want to do to make this thing stable is I want to cut the round parts off a couple of popsicle sticks. And so the first thing I'm going to try to do that with, can you even see? Am I even in the frame? I'm not in the frame. Here's what I'm laying out. Well, first of all, I'm going to take a picture of this, so that when I say, hey, this is how I built my base. Okay, let's take a picture. The person trying to perform the methods can replicate my methods. All right, so there we go. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. So I want to make this one exactly 1 popsicle stick shorter on one side. And I would take a picture of this. I think that'd be smart. And 1 popsicle stick shorter on the other side. And then once I cut this thing, I'm going to use it as a template for my other cuts. Now, I'm going to assume everybody has steak knives somewhere. And notice I'm using this cardboard box so that I don't cut the carpet of my house, which I think would make myself and the other people that have a steak in the house unhappy. You don't want to make your parents unhappy either. Now, I'm not pushing down. I'm just dragging it across until it scores a cut. See that? Do not push. Saws are not about pushing. They're about gently moving back and forth. Now, please be careful when you work on this stuff at home. So let's see here. Wow. A steak knife is a really good cutting tool. Now, I'm also clamping pretty firmly with my hand here. Now that I got a groove in there, I can really go for it. So notice, I am using these popsicle sticks to build this base, but I could use this piece of cardboard too as part of what I'm working on, which I just realized while I was doing this, and so I think I'm going to want to do that in a minute. Alright, so now that I've scored this with a steak knife, I'm not going to keep cutting it because that seems like too much work to me. I'm going to break them off right where I scored them. Oh, and that wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good. Now I've got a piece that I can use to measure my other cuts. So I'm going to make a few more of these. Right, I'm going to measure them like that. Alright, so let's look at the tin snip cut. I doubt many of you have tin snips at home. These work pretty damn good to cut a popsicle stick. If you have an X-Acto knife, it's gonna actually be harder to use than the steak knife. Although, it will be good to get one little score in on your cut that you could then finish with a steak knife. The steak knife is nice because it's basically a saw. Get more aggro this time a little. See, like if I was doing this on the floor, I'd be cutting the floor right there. That would be bad news. Get in trouble for that for sure. Alright, so right here we're looking at, like I said, these wire cutters, especially if you score it with a steak knife first. Beautiful, beautiful cut for a popsicle stick. But you don't even really need to score it. These things can do some damage if you have these around the house. So if I wasn't showing you how to use household materials to do this, I'd definitely be using these. Alright, so here's how I'm going to glue my little girders together for the base. A liberal amount of glue on one side. I'm going to match it to my base, and then I'm going to use binder clips to clamp it. Now again, I don't really want to get glue on the carpet here, so I should probably work on a table. But whatever. Let's just try to be clean. All right. So the thing about Elmer's glue is you want to give it a good, 30 minutes to get dry. So you want to leave it alone clamped like this. But that being said, since I actually have some extra binder clips, I'm going to clamp my whole base together, and then we're going to look at my throwing arm. All right, I feel pretty good about this base here. That's clamping together, okay? I want to think about how I'm going to attach my arms that are going to have a band around them. And I'm thinking they're going to have to resist a lot of force from that pulled back elastic band. In addition to that, I'm going to think about how I want to attach my throwing arm. I think my throwing arm is going to come all the way from the front, and I think that my base with the elastic band is going to be shifted forward so that this thing goes and stops around the 45-degree angle to throw the projectile. Finally, while waiting for my first part of my catapult to dry, I drew up some figures that I will take photographs of and be able to put then in my lab reports methods section so that someone can replicate the construction of my catapult.